Okay, here's going to be an experiment to see if I can work with food while holding a phone to show an intermediate step. The videos I've shared so far of the loose leash walking out in the world involve me not having food so I can actually hold the phone. But the first step is to mix in some healing. So I'm starting with gentle, will my dog respond to leash pressure? Yes. And I'm working with a leash that has a stop gap that keeps it from becoming too tight and too loose. So it pretty much just becomes like a collar and a flat leash. These are kind of hard to find, but this is a particularly nice one. So I don't think I can do leash behind me, given the complexity of what I'm already doing, trying to keep my dog in the frame. So I'm gonna, let's see, get him on the other side. He's got to be on this side for me to be able to put my hand in my food position and deliver it into the your food position. And the reason I like this is you have such a strong tactile experience of your hand being against your hip that you don't have to even look at your dog. And this is going to help you not push your hand towards your dog's mouth, which will create foraging in most cases, as your dog also moves towards your hand. So here you're seeing that my hand is attached to my hip, and the rotation of my hand is the cue that it's time to get the food. If my hand has fingers facing up, that means food is coming soon, but not yet. And what this also does is it puts the dog behind you so that you can actually rotate into your dog without bumping into them. So you can see how I'm doing a 360 and he knows how to rotate in, but it didn't have to push into his shoulder. Okay, so he is still in heel position following the my food, your food hand, and I almost just tripped and fell. This is going to be an interesting video. So now I'm going to take a break from that and let him do his own thing. So he's offering heel. Now he's doing his own thing. Good boy. So now my palm's open saying, we're done with this. Good. He's choosing to come back. So I'm going to go ahead and give him one. Now at this point, I want to encourage him to look in and out in the world instead of at me. So I'm going to stop feeding. And when he offers heel position, I may put my hand down to give him food, but I'm not going to make eye contact. So anytime he comes back, he's going to get food, but just like a Pez container. Because again, I'm trying to transition from active attentive healing to loose leash walking with the dog focusing on the world around him. And this is a very strange looking video. It's really hard to do all of this. But if I asked another person to video, the dog would change. He would not demonstrate what is typical for him. So now we're moving on to a busier road. And like I've already mentioned, he was unable to go for a walk out my front door because of such motion sensitivity about cars. So the fact that he's even doing this is amazing. And the camera is reading this leash as the thing to focus on. So now I've just tucked it under my offside arm. I barely am holding onto it at all. It's very loose. So this is kind of an early transition. Once your dog is not associating your leash with high arousal outside, and you can walk your dog in your house, around your house, and develop the habit of a food delivery system that you yourself can do consistently without having to give it too much brain power. Then you can gradually start taking the show on the road. And I would start with just 5 minutes. I would not add a duration to this until, good boy, until your dog can show you that he or she can maintain a low enough state of arousal that this is not overly challenging. And I think you're seeing the bobbing microphone. I'm going to try to move that. So he's still offering healing most of the time, but see how he's looking ahead, maintaining a loose leash? I can go ahead and mark and reward that, which is what I did at first. So good. Anytime he looked away, I said good, and by maintaining a steady pace myself and by delivering the food only at my hip, basically he just has to slow down a little bit to get to the food. So that's a nice change from forging ahead. So it's constantly being reinforced for after slowing down. That's really nice. Really nice. Good job. So this is a great example of the intermediate step, going from attentive heeling to loose leash walking. And one other point, I went through the whole gradual duration increasing to my normal route. I first did the whole thing with attentive heeling. And then I started rewarding looking away and gradually shifted to loose leash walking. So my thinking is if my dog can't walk with attentive heeling, then he certainly isn't going to be able to walk with his mind focusing mostly on the environment, but also keeping a little bit in touch with me. Good boy. Very nice. So this is absolutely loose leash at this point, and when I carry food on me and he knows he's going to get one occasionally, this is pretty typical for him. When we're working without food, I will put the leash behind my legs, I don't know, a couple times during a 1 to 2 mile walk where I feel like he's starting to pull a little harder than subtly. And one point I want to make is I have seen leash pressure releasing done quite nicely by a bunch of dog trainers on YouTube. And the difference of this is where it's coming from. So the leash pressure releasing, I think that came from compulsion training, and it's been softened to be more of a balance type of training. So the leash tightens around the dog's neck in a new style fashion. But I feel like by teaching a dog to respond to the subtlest pressure on just one side of his neck, it's just a simple cue that the dog knows how to respond to once they've learned it. That is to always move in the direction that pressure is pulling or pushing you toward. Pulling, it would be pulling you towards, I guess. Good jobby. And I think I mentioned it, but I'm going to say it again. Just casual talking about all this is when you want your dog to look at the environment instead of staring at you, you also don't want to be looking at your dog. So having a really habitual mechanical way of delivering food where you don't have to look down, your hand just goes into that position and rotates around, and your dog knows exactly where the food's going to appear, makes it possible for you to keep your attention on the environment too. So I think these are some pretty good examples. So the cue that the reward is coming is basically the rotation of the wrist. There's no verbal, no nothing, but that's a pretty clear cue. You can see he's not going for it until the hand turns, and boom. So that's what I like about this tactile experience. Helps me be super consistent. Good boy.